He's Grant Ramey. I'm Rob Lewis, and we are not blue. That's the light in here in the bowels of Bridgestone Arena. What a day for Tennessee, Grant. Semifinals of the SEC tournament, 70-65 over Auburn. High-level basketball game, and, man, Tennessee came through in the clutch.
Did not disappoint at all. Crazy fast start. A ton of shot making there the first 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was. Just really impressive by Tennessee in the second half. They get down 5 in the first 4 minutes or so of the second half. Janai Broome is scoring, kind of doing what he does. And then Tennessee finds a way to go on. I think it was a 26-9 run at one point.
You could. I wrote it down as 17-4, but
right,
you could depends on where you broke it
up. They
up.
went from down 5 to up 12 over a span of about 10 minutes, where 60, they really took over the game. And looks like it was going to fall apart, but it was also impressive the way they answered that late Auburn.
That really was. I mean, it felt like. And it's 64-52, and Auburn goes on a 10-0 run, bang! I mean, like out of nowhere, and you know they've got all the momentum. It felt like Tennessee was rowing a leaky ship at that point in time, and then and they come down, they get the stops they need, they make their free throws, and the free throws were huge today after yesterday's.
Way better. Well, and Auburn struggled at the line too.
Auburn struggled. Janai Broome, SEC Player of the Year, missed 2, like under a minute left with Auburn down 3. And Tennessee were 25-27 at the line, and best performance of the year. I mean, they got the bonus early and took advantage.
Yeah, Igor struggled today in the second half when that run started. There were a couple of Igor kind of caused turnovers. There was that 5-second call. Auburn made like 4 straight shots, and it went from a 12-point lead to a 2-point lead in an instant, in a couple of minutes. So for Tennessee to answer the way they did after not answering in the final 2 minutes at Auburn, it's a very similar situation where you're up 4, you're up 5 with a couple of minutes left. Can you find a way to close it? They found a way to close it. This time of year, you got to do that. You got to hit your foul shots. You got to find answers when you got to have answers, and they did it.
That was the most impressive thing to me. That last 10 minutes. I mean, despite the 10-0 run, but as Tennessee was building that lead, just kind of you could feel them just kind of tightening those screws. Like, we got a chance, and they seized it. I mean, I thought their maturity and really showed up there, because that was a pressure cooker out there in the second half, the last 10 minutes. And Zakai never blinked.
Yeah, I mean, you look at projections for the NCAA tournament. This is 2 number 1 seeds and 2 number 2 seeds that are still here, and you're kind of playing for that final number 1 seed in theory, depending, I guess, on who you talk to or whatever. But I mean, there's no better test than an Auburn on a Saturday and then a Florida or a Alabama on a Sunday going into the SEC tournament. I can't imagine 4 better teams, tougher teams in one location.
It's a Final Four caliber.
It might be better than the Final Four.
You're actually right about that. I mean, depending on what kind of upsets, it is wild to think about that in this league. The way it is. And one guy we haven't mentioned, Felix Okpara, didn't score in the game, fouled out. But man, I thought he was a factor. Like, I mean, Janai Broome's got 23 points, but he had to work. He battled, and Felix, I thought really showed up. And he's not the most physical guy in the world, but he answered that bell.
There was one possession coming out of that under 4 timeout, 3:56 left. The lead was down to 2. All the momentum was Auburn. They went straight to Janai Broome at the rim, as you would expect. And Felix Okpara got a stop without fouling when he had 4 fouls.
He missed 2, didn't he?
Right.
I think he missed and got the rebound and missed
and you're watching it play out, and you're thinking, man, if Tennessee wins that game, that's a big moment.
Huge.
Darlington Dubar, I mean, he had a couple tough buckets, tough when they needed them, and then he had a couple free throws.
And that's the flip side of Igor being in foul trouble. I mean, Darlington had to step up, and he did. Cade Phillips doesn't do much, but the tip in he had there
to get it back to 3 to kind of steady the ship a little bit. Needed an answer, and he found it.
And everybody that got in the game did something, and they held. I mean, we mentioned Igor; he struggled, but he was big early. He was a big factor in Tennessee getting out of the gates quickly with threes. But Zakai, not so much stats, just his attitude and leadership today, man. I thought he really just was the alpha dog on the court.
Yeah, another day where you kind of struggle with foul trouble. He's got to be smarter, got to be a little bit more disciplined, I guess, to avoid that second or third foul and to be able to stay on the court. But, I mean, he scored 20. The stat line speaks for itself, what he did kind of up and down the court, what he does on both ends. He's the emotional leader. He's the heart and soul. He has been for a while.
Has been.
I think the question is, what does this mean? Is that number 1 seed still out there? Obviously, Florida and Alabama's playing right now as we're talking. I think what it could mean for Tennessee, if Alabama gets beat tonight, maybe you move back into that Lexington spot instead of getting projected to Cleveland or elsewhere.
It's wild to me to think that didn't matter today. That you couldn't help yourself by beating. I mean, all the talking heads out there seem to want to suggest that everything's locked in, but man, I have a hard time believing that Tennessee didn't help itself by knocking off on them.
And maybe it's different circumstances when it is these kind of teams here. It's not a standard SEC tournament. These are 4 elite basketball teams, and that 4th number 1 seed's on the line, and 3 teams that are battling for it are here and still playing and advancing in the bracket. So maybe it is different on Selection Sunday. Just based on what we've seen in the past, it feels like the bracket is set Saturday night, and there's not that much that happens on Sunday. 2022, I think they won the tournament in Tampa. I think they were number 3 seed going into it, and they stayed a 3 seed coming out of it. So I don't know if it means anything, but man, momentum-wise, just what this team's mentality is, you got to expect it means a lot going forward.
And I tell you, it meant something to those kids today,
For
too.
sure.
You could certainly
they
tell that.
wanted that second shot at Auburn after the way they couldn't close it January, and they didn't miss their opportunity.
Came through. He's Grant Ramey. I'm Rob Lewis. It's a wild day here in Nashville. We've got tons of coverage on the site. This has been the Exterior Home Solutions Fast Break.